Hi, good afternoon to everyone who's signed in on time for the webinar this afternoon. We're just waiting for a few more people to turn up and then we will start. So probably going to start in the next 2 to 3 minutes, so please do hang tight. Okay, I think everyone's here now, so we're going to start. Thank you very much for joining the Magora webinar this afternoon. The title of the webinar, as you can see, is how to cut up to 50% off your development costs. What we're going to cover today is how to effectively negotiate with developers to get a realistic idea of how much an app will cost you, what questions to ask, and what questions when to ask them to make sure you get an accurate cost on and what you're going to achieve and what is the likely additional payments and outlays that you might occur, how to prioritize your features for your app and cut scope to maximize the return of your investment, how to become fully in control of your project's budgets and timeframes, and also how to make a hit with your project while avoid a common pitfalls. So let's move on. So the webinar is held by me today. I'm James Watkins. I'm a project consultant at Magora. I'm based in London in the Shoreditch office, and I have 6 years of tech industry background. I've built global teams at Lenovo, Samsung, HP, and Epson. I've worked in IT, NHS IT, and healthcare IT for a leading provider, helping with the digital strategy with the primary and community care. I've launched a new product into the Microsoft Dynamics channel, and now I'm at Magora helping you hopefully build your next big thing and working on bespoke IT projects. Just to give you a brief overview of Magora and how we work, this slide here shows the sort of product life cycle or project life cycle of what you're likely to expect when working with ourselves at Magora. We follow these 4 steps, and these 4 steps, from our experience of doing over 600 projects, have shown that this process works, and we've really refined this process, and we can create great projects together if we follow these steps, which we'll kind of cover off today in the webinar as well also. So the agenda today is to look at inshore developers versus outsourced developers, documentation and what to request, what to expect and when to expect it, an MVP, and for those who don't know what MVP is at the moment, it's minimal viable product. So this is the minimum amount of product you need to start making money. And we're going to look at the one platform approach and also iterative delivery and hands-on experience. And then at the end, we're going to have some time for some question and answers through this. The presentation will last about 20 minutes, and then we'll have 20 minutes for question and answers. So please do write your questions in the question box, and I'll get them to them as well when we get to the end of the presentation. So in-house versus outsource or offshore. So a usual project for a sort of a medium-sized project would take around 6 months. And what you're going to need if you do inshore, the usual team makeup is a project manager, a business analyst, a designer, a front-end developer, a back-end developer, and QA and testing. This is kind of what you need if you're in-house and if you outsource the product as well. So I guess one thing is just to look at the 2 different models and how they work. So if we look at in-house first, so we'll cover off some of the pros of what you get with working with an in-house team. So in-house, the team is nearby. You can see them every day. You can You can talk to them, you can go over and see them, which is great. You don't have to have a project manager, business analyst, and a QA, because you can merge them three together to be one person, even though they are set skills within these skills that maybe not one person has all of these, so it could slow your project down and delivery times, so you need to plan for this. Also, that it's reasonable for long-lasting projects. I mean, if you are a product company and you're iterating or delivering new features all the time, every month or every week, then an in-house team does suit that. But if you're building a new product for one part of your business that is not going to be a full-time project for a long time, hiring someone could be quite expensive for that, because they might only be needed for 3 months, 4 months, or 6 months, and then what do you do with them past that? So the cons of in-house is they need to be managed, so you need to have the sufficient bandwidth within your management team to manage this, and if not, you might need to hire someone. It must be occupied at all times, so this means that the devs need to be working all the time, so it's good to either plan 3, 6, 12 months ahead on work that needs to be done, or you need to have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 projects for them, so they can bounce from one to the other. So otherwise you end up paying money on dev that's not doing any work. And also the costs are higher for in-house, and this comes just down to normal business process, is the cost of your office, the cost of a desk, equipment, insurance, taxes, looking after staff needs, making sure they have a good workplace to work, as well as their salary and all the onboarding costs that come with that. If we look at the pros for offshore or outsource, the amount of resource can be bought. So if you only need a project manager, 1 developer, and a business analyst, you can have that. If you need to speed up or make the project go a little faster, or the scope of the project is growing, you can add more people and take people away. So you only pay for what you use. So this becomes a cost-effective solution for when if you're not ramping up to be a full 12-month project. If you only need someone for a month or 2 months, or just a little part of the project, so it becomes cost-effective. You can set the development schedule, so a lot of the times you can say X needs to be developed by this, with open communication and transparency and conversation. I mean, we can never make things that take 4 months be built in 2 months, but you know that you're going to get that delivered in that time frame. Things won't leak over, which they can do with internal teams, because their resources pulled somewhere else because another part of the business needs help. So that's another pro of an offshore team. Again, the team can be extended, and additional expertise can be added whenever needed. This is the great thing about outsource and offshore, is that you can actually grow your team quickly at little expense, without worrying about hires and waiting for people to start. It is an on-demand service, so you can really say, as long as the company has got the expertise within their skill set, you can really add expertise as and when. And as I mentioned as well, the team can be scaled up and down whenever you want. So the cons of this, the company can transfer a developer out of the project without notification. One way to get around this is have this sorted out at contract stage. So if someone needs to be removed off a project for another reason, they have to give you a suitable replacement, or offer you CVs for someone to work on that. But that can be all sorted at the contract stage. Another con is resources might be poor quality. So there's one way that we advise everyone when coming to Magora to deal with this problem is look at our relevant work, look at projects we've done, look at our clients, review all the documentation you can find about us. Go on Clutch is a good place to go to review us as a company. Also, things that people don't tend to do is ask to have a video call with the outsource office, so you can actually have a walk around, see the office with someone walking around explaining you who's this, who's that, so you can actually see the people that are going to be working on your project, but also you can see the environment in which they're working in. And also the one thing, talk to your team, talk to the team that propose to work on your project, have a kickoff meeting, get to meet everyone, and make sure that is the right team and you're going to work in the right way. Another one is the scope should be defined strictly. So this can be dealt with by, the first stage that we mentioned on the previous slide, which was the discovery of really setting clear goals of what's expected and what you're likely to hear and see. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. As you can see here, there's just some kind of pros and cons of how much it actually costs. So these are just indicative costs of how much it costs to onboard one employee against using an outsourced company. Okay, the next stage is documentation and what to request. So as many of you, if you've been looking at projects at the moment, and that's why you've joined this, because you're thinking that you've seen lots of different variants within sort of 1 or 3 or 4 quotes that you've got. They do vary between 100 and 400% either way of whichever point of the budget you set. This comes from IT companies trying to guess what your product should do, because maybe your brief or your documentation doesn't give the right and relevant information for us to be able to create a full and meaningful estimation of how long this takes. And this results in a great difference in costs, and depending on their own business processes, depending on which IT vendor you're speaking to, and the level of expertise, this is where you get these variants. So to understand your project, we really need to understand the scope and the product description. So what we need to know from this is we need to know the full understanding of the user workflows. We need to know the inside and outside the product and who's going to be using the project. This is quite important. So they're broken down into functional requirements, which is the workflows and how the product's going to work inside once you're inside the product. And then there's the non-functional requirements. This is the platform requirements and restrictions. So when I talk about this, I mean about, is it iOS? Is it Android? Is it web? Or is it responsive web? So you need to know where you want to put the platform, and then we need to know what are the restrictions with that platform so we can discuss that with you. Another one is technology stack. Have an idea of what technology stack you want to use that would be right for your product. If it's iOS, we might look at using Swift, and Android, would you maybe Java or another language within that will help with Android, and these things do make a difference. So do your research into the technology stack that could be likely to be used for you. And the expected load is always good, so we can design the infrastructure architecture. So this means of how many people do you think your application is going to reach? If it's an internal project, how many staff are going to be using this? And how often do you think you're going to be adding new staff into this to be using this? If it's a consumer application, have you got 10,000 registrants and within 3 months you're expecting 1 million people to be registered on your application? Then these need to be ironed out at the beginning and really look, because that will decide on how the architecture of the infrastructure is designed. The other one is the design. So if you can try and get an approved concept, try and get design ideas, colors, what you'd like. Don't worry, we do realize that not everyone is a graphic designer or is used to designing for web or mobile. But if we can get an overview of how you'd like the design, this will really help designers field your vision of how the app's going to work, and then they can offer help with that design. It would be really good if you could set out wireframes. This is a quite wide-termed word within the industry. If you could really plot how you expect each screen to work, this can be drawn on a piece of paper. This can be used online with a wireframing tool that you can just sort of drag and drop and annotate where you want. Or it could be just, like I said, pen and paper on a piece of paper, take a photo, and let us have that so we can really work that forward. And if you do have a UI kit, if you've managed to do some designs or get some designs done for you, then it'd be great if we could have that, because that would really help with the product and the product description. It's always good to see a business plan. This is good to see, how you're going to monetize this. So we make sure that we build in the right functionality into the project. and also make sure that it's a viable project, that you're going to be able to do that. So if we look at some things, like if you're building an app, for example, and you want to make more money from that, if you're on Android, you can probably do that through ads. If you're on iOS, you want to look at in-app purchases to really unlock premium content, and that's a good way of making money for your app. The rollout strategy. So as I mentioned before, on about how is the infrastructure and how many people are going to be using this, we sort of need to know that. So I used the 10,000 and then 1 million within 3 months. We kind of need to plan for that again, and then back down to the UI as well is very important. Which is the understanding of how the user moves through with the designs and uses the system. Because what we really want is the user to have a great experience while using your application, whether that be an internal business-to-business app, or whether that be an internal tool for your own business, or whether that be a B2C app. Everybody likes to use stuff that's easy, intuitive, and is right for the right audience. So it's really good that we look at that and that we have a clear goal on what to expect there. This is just going over what we've just discussed, so if you just take a second to look at this slide. So now that we get to the point of, you've got this documentation and you're presenting it to a vendor, to an IT supplier, and these are the kind of things that you need to look at. So when you've emailed them or had an initial conversation, how fast they are to react to what you've supplied them. The business development manager or the project consultant or whoever you might talk to in the team should give you an outline of when things should be delivered to you, and also that leads us into our next one, is how precise their reply is. So this is really looking at, do they understand your business needs and what you're looking to do, and are they asking the right questions that they should be asking to make sure that you are successful. This then leads into the transparency. Are they having open conversations with you? A lot of agencies out there might just say yes, we can build that. I know at Magora we're not a yes agency. We really want to open communication channels with our clients and really look at how we can achieve the best working solution for their business. And by doing that, we need to be transparent and we need to understand each other and make the best way to work together. Also, look at what's provided. I mean, in my experience, I spoke to lots of people over the last month or two that are looking around to build new software, and what has been delivered by different suppliers is variant. It's a bit like what we just talked about with the 100 and 400% difference in prices. So is the reply and on what they are given back. So in a second, I will just show a quick example of what Magora provide, but it makes sure it's customized to you. It's not just an email with a sort of a figure on that. Really gets them detailed into what you've asked them to build, and make sure that they're ticking all the boxes of all the features that you really think are needed for you. And the next one is, if you think about the long-term perspective for you. So they're planning for the future. Are they talking about future-proof in your application? Are they looking at building a partnership with you, or are they, on the negative side, are they just looking to build and move away? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you an example of what Magora would present to a client. And it's just here. So what we would do for every estimation that we do, as you can see, it's on a date, and we have an overview of the project. So these are all the bits from the team that have worked on this, and they look at it, and then there's an hour given to this. If you can see these hours, and there's Java front end, Android here, Q&A, which is testing, project communication administration, and it goes on. But not only that, we actually go to one step further at Magora, and we go further down, and we break it down via technology across the top, and the amount of hours that it would take for each feature. With there's some added explanations and comments here that which you're free to read, and we can have conversations about these. But as you can see, it's a very in-depth process that we offer at Magora, and we would advise you to, when you're seeking an IT vendor, look for the same level of service and make sure they've really understood what you're looking to build, because this will cut the costs down because you're concise about what is being built. It's not, okay, well, they sent me an email saying it could be 50,000, and then by the time you get to build and you're 1 month in, they're saying, oh, it's going to be more money now, because you've got something to go back to, because you can see they've estimated, oh, okay, this should take 40 hours. So the costs of what should be what should become up front. So what we'll do is we'll go back into the presentation. So the next thing that the vendor will do for you once they've presented their proposal and their estimation, they will overlook what you've provided them and make sure that your project vision is correct. They break down the features and timeframes of what's expected, and they're understanding what the features and what should be launched first. So this is really important for you as a creator of new software, or it's a new project for you, is really understanding that the vendor that you've selected really understands and really checks what you're doing. If you've given a business plan or a proposal or brief to them, and you've suggested certain technology stack and certain architecture for how it should be built, and the team that you've selected or the team that you're going to select is pushing back on that and making sure all they're doing is really confirming that the right project vision is right for you, and making sure that, and that's you know, how you have that open conversation and you can understand different parts of the project and how things can work, and what are the reasons if we go down your vision or we take that other vision, and then compromising in the middle to make sure that the product is really built to the best for your customers or your employees if it's an internal application. So next part of the webinar is on MVP and the one platform approach. So what we tend to do at Magora is start with one platform. So if you're a new startup and you are developing a new product for delivering something to someone, we'll use delivery because it's kind of a hot topic at the moment, and you're looking at delivering whatever it may be, goods to a customer. How are we going to reach the customers? Where, for the start, is what's the best platform to start with? Is it web only? Does it need to be mobile friendly so they can use on the web, or is it an app? And are they essential? And there's ways that we can work with this and work towards this, is finding out, this comes from your business plan and your monetization strategy and how you're going to become viable. And this is really important to think about. I mean, ultimately in the world, you know, you want everything. It's a we want everything now world. Everything you get in the world is on demand. But building your business and building an application, it's better to get one platform perfect and then really build a good user and customer base that want to use your product and really push that forward. Again, if it's an internal, it's about adoption and making sure that this product is adopted internally, so it becomes a must need for your staff to really want to use that, and not an eyesore and they want to go back to old ways of working, and it creates that unhappiness. So you've got your two things there. So really make sure that the platform you're looking at, there's ways that you can do this. You can research if you're a consumer facing product that you're looking to build, look at where most people who use your services or in your vertical would use to interact with your services. So is that on their mobile? Is that web? And if it's mobile, what mobile? Is it Android? Is it iOS? And we can do some research into that. We can help you with that at Magora, but also you can do this yourself and really think about that. This will also cut down your costs, because if you want a web, an iOS and an Android, the cost is always going to be much bigger than if you maybe wanted the web to start with, see how that goes. Oh, I've got lots of users using it from iOS devices, right, let's build the iOS. And then once you've got your 1 million users and people are crying out for the Android, then build the Android. So it's really good to look at that and look at the business plan and the monetization strategies of how you're going to make money from your application. So really pick the right platform for you. Yeah, and that's really one key thing. It's going to save you a lot of money if you just build one platform to get you going and get you trading and making you money. Or if it's an internal system, you get the right platform, which will speed up the business processes, streamline processes and save time for your employees, which will make you more profitable, which will show you a return on investment. So iterative delivery and hands-on experience. So it's always essential to verify that the project is right on track. A good development house will always provide you a demo within 2 to 3 weeks. So this is where they show you what's been working on in their first sort of deliverable, and this shows you how the product will work and and how it's going, and what are the next steps for the next demo and what's going to be delivered. It's always best practice to receive a version for you to be able to test yourself, and maybe give to some end users that you want to test. So it's really good that you get that to have a play with, have a look around, because that's when we can really tweak some of the features and some of the user flows to make sure that it is fit for purpose when you do go live at the end of the day. So this is quite an important to be involved in the project as much as you can. If you're using an outsourced team, it's really good, and this can all be sorted again in contract, and this should all be brought up with how they are going to conduct your project, and it's the right way, and the right communication channels are brought towards you, and it's making sure that you pick the right team for you. So in summary, so what we've learned today: work with the right bespoke software vendor instead of an in-house team, unless the in-house team is the more viable option for you. But what we will say is, using that consultancy service of a project team, as I've mentioned, the pros are you get high level of expertise on demand when you want them for your project at a lower cost than onboarding new people. The right documentation, if you create the right documentation at the start, you will really be able to get an accurate and quite precise quote, and the development team will understand your needs and what is going to be created, and that can start a brilliant and beautiful process, because you can really start to gel together and really be cohesive on what is that minimal viable product to get you trading, and really keep your costs at a minimum. The next one is the first version of the feature list and platform should be carefully chosen to fit the business needs. Again, this is what we were talking about, that MVP product. This is so important that we build just enough to get you trading, and then we can add features as you pick up momentum. But we need to make sure that the feature list is in the first version is critical, and it is the right things. So an example here is, you're an e-commerce website. What you need to do is you need to select your goods, put them in a basket, and pay and get it delivered very easily. You don't need spinning widgets and flashy slogans everywhere. You need people to find the product they want, be able to click on what they want, pay for it, and they get delivered. That is the key function and features for that product. You don't need, lots of things happening around it. You want people to be able to go find what they want, get what they've done in the shortest amount of time. And the last but not least, the results should be verified, and you should be able to adjust every 2 to 3 weeks within the cycle. So I guess now it's my time to hand over to you and give you a chance to ask me some questions. For those who do have to shoot or might want to think later, I'm going to leave my contact details on the screen, so please do give me a call, drop me an email, arrange to come and see me in the office. I'd love to meet you all, but what I'll do now is I'll just give you some time to write some questions, and I'll try and get through the questions. Okay, so we've got a question here, and it says, we are not satisfied with our current developer, but the project may be 80 to 90% complete. Is there any chance that Magora could pick up this project and improve and finalize it? Yes, definitely. This is something that we do and have done for lots of clients that have unfortunately maybe had their fingers burnt, or things have stalled with their current developer, and we would look at doing this for you. And the process would be to have a conversation, look at all the documentation that's been created so far, do a code review of what the code it looks like, and check the integrity of that. And then what we would do next is then give you a proposal of what can be done, and we would make sure that could be done by us, and we can deliver you a successful result. I hope that answers the question there. If there's anything more you want to pick up on that, Dimitri, then please do send me an email with the email on, and we can pick that up. The next question we've got is, With what mobile platform you recommend to begin development, iOS or Android, or which is ever best operating system for app development, iOS or Android? So I guess this is kind of a tough one, and it could be kind of you can weigh it up really, but I think ultimately you need to begin in the first place. So that's the start. So you need to find out what your target audience is. Like I said, who are your customers? What are they using? How are they interacting with your services so far? And you could go with Android, you could go with iOS, but there's no opinion. We have to listen to you and your project area on that, but we have to choose one platform to go with over the other if we take the one platform approach, which we would advise. But we always say, or maybe I tend to learn towards iOS. It's the best option because of the stability, the security, and it max average purchases is one user in the B2C world. So there's more purchases done in all people in iOS applications spend more money than users in Android. So that's kind of my kind of hint of where it could be, and that's what I would suggest, but we would have to look at each case by case and making sure that that's the right fit for your business. Okay. Next question we've got is, all this testing, I can't believe it's really needed. Can we decrease the testing part of the development? I guess there is, of course you can. But testing is really important to make sure that the product is ready when you are ready, and when you launch that the product doesn't have bugs, doesn't have features that don't work properly, don't have the user workflows that you're not expected. But if you cut down on the testing, like I said, you can cut down on testing. You are going to lay your users up for a disappointment, and that is one of the things. Testing is kind of the most important part after the discovery phase, and building the infrastructure and the tech stack for your product and knowing all the features. Testing all them features is key. So I wouldn't advise to cut corners on the testing. So we've had another question in about what happens if my app gets taken off the App Store? Would they revoke my development license? So if your app is taken down by Apple, then your developer license may get revoked, but it really depends on the reason why they took you down. And it's really good. You can Google search and you can look at the Apple guidelines, and they will always give you a reason why your app has been taken down. So it's really good to sort of look at that and have a look at that, and then talk to your development team or your offshore team, outsourced team, and discuss this, why it was taken down. Reasons why it could get taken down is, if you've paid for fake reviews, then Apple might take away that because they know that you're paying to get your app up the App Store. So you're kind of, I guess it's insider trading if you look at it that way, and it's not given a true representation of who you are, and Apple do frown upon that. If there's a copyright violation or something like that, then if it's something that there's a similar app in the App Store, or you've infringed on someone's copyright, then they would probably not revoke your developer license. What they would do is just kind of warn you and say, look, you need to change this, and then ultimately you want to change that as well, because you want to have a differentiator for your business and on your application. So you want to have it different from the other. So they give you a chance to resubmit that into the App Store and go from there. We've had one more question about next question that's come in actually, is Android less restrictive than iOS? What will be cheaper to develop in your experience, Android or iOS app with the same functionality? So this one is quite interesting. both platforms, iOS and Android, come with their own restrictions due to the phones and how they react, and the operating systems in which they react in. So they do have limitations. iOS, as a platform created especially for mobile usage, has less conversational recommendations. So difficulties for Android based on different personas is the same commands, and they have different smartphones. So this is what I'm saying, is that the Android and the iOS has less phones, so that there might be less restrictions, whereas Android, for functionality, you have to take more phones into account. So building on Android can sometimes be more difficult and more costly. So if that answering short for that, but I do think that's one that we can pick up again. So please do drop me an email, whoever asked that question, because it's a good one that we probably need to address and give some more time to that, so we can really pick that up. So we've got another question, which is, how can you control the timing and the final project deadlines? So really, this is all done from what we've discussed today in the webinar, and it is really down to the 4Ds, which you've seen in one of the first slides, which is discovery, design, development, deploy, and support. So it really breaks down to this. So get your documentation right, get your business plan right, get some designs done, speak to a number of IT vendors, get the proposals, get the right proposals in, make sure they put the right effort in, make sure that they've really understood what you're looking to achieve, make sure they haven't just said yes, yes, yes and given you a number. Really look at what they provided you, and that will give you key indications of how you can really control the timing and the deadlines and the budget as well, and look to things for like fixed price, because that will come with a fixed time, and look at these, and then really the ultimate way in which you can control these project deadlines is in the contract stage. When you're looking to sign contracts, look at the scheduling and what's going to be delivered, when it's going to be delivered, and these are really key points that are maybe the next step on, because you're one step further down the line. You're really looking, you've already selected you've shortlisted your development, who you're going to work with, and now it's down to the finer detail. So really look at the contracts and how they're going to develop, and how their projection of how they're going to look at this. Also speak to their project managers and really find out how they're working their processes and how things are going to be delivered on time, and go from there. So we've got another question now, and the question is, how can I protect my ownership for my programming code and software? Will Magora own or distribute the source code after the release of the solution? So this is a very good question, and one maybe we could pick up in a bit more detail. One that, for me, about the Magora side, Magora, if you choose to work with Magora, we work as a pseudo you. We work as a development house within your company for you. We don't own the IP. The IP belongs to you. The intellectual property and the code belongs to you. And once all the project is signed, sealed, delivered, paid, we offload all that back to you into your in-house, and you look after that. So we will never distribute or release your solution under another name or give it to anyone else. When the project belongs to you and you only, and that's the agreement that Magora has with their clients. We are not a product company, we're a digital build agency. We like building product for other people. We are not interested in owning product for ourselves. The next one is the ownership of the programming code. If I can sort of circle around this quite quickly, code is very difficult to protect, because nothing is unique. Code has been written and manipulated in different ways to create different things, and a lot of code comes from libraries or open source. So it's really hard to protect the actual code within it. What we need to protect is your idea and the product once it's finished. So we've had another question in, which is another good one, which is kind of going round what we've talked about today. The whole thing is about how do I organize all the documentation right, even if I don't have a clue on what's needed. Do you use some particular approach, or what can you recommend? So yes, we can recommend. If you actually go to the handout section in the webinar, you'll actually see a brief document, which is our way of suggesting, our suggested approach of how you attack writing your documentation and following that flow of what's needed here. And you can follow it step by step. And also, if you come to someone like Magora, you get to speak to one of me and my team as a project consultant who have expertise in helping you write this documentation or asking you the right questions to spear thought and how you would do this. So, we can definitely offer you a way of doing this, which is a handout or a leave from this webinar, but also, have a conversation with a project consultant and really talk through the project. And if they don't have project consultants, maybe ask, and they've just got business development managers or sales associates, or maybe asked, to speak to one of the technologists or a project manager to really help you get clarity. Because as we've said all through this webinar, getting the right documentation at the beginning saves you the money in your development. So this is a really important point, that we need to structure this right, and companies need to help you with this. You need to go away, and there's lots of resource on the internet and how to write these documents, but also you can use our document and have that conversation and then tailor it and really get it right, and then really get the best estimation and proposal for you to make the right decision for your company and your business. I think we're coming towards the end of the 20 minutes of Q&A. Does anyone else have any other questions? Please do type them now. If you're like me, you probably have time to digest, and you've been writing down notes during this webinar, and you're probably going to read over them again and you have some questions. Please do email me at jamesw@magora.co.uk or give me a call, and I'll look forward to hearing from you all soon. Thank you for coming in today.